Now let me ask you all a simple question. How was your childhood? Was it fun? Was it outgoing or anything like that? Tell me this works, please. There we go. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you were outgoing? You shy? Okay. So for those who didn't raise their hand, either you were isolated or you just don't remember. That's okay. Oh, shoot. I guess we'll just do this since it's faster. Now, did you have intense interest by any chance? I mean, did you like certain designs or anything like that?
Yeah.
I see some yeses going around. Now, another huge question, did you have any personal issues? I mean, were some of you shy, or did you like misinterpret social cues or anything like that?
Shy.
I was shy.
Yeah,
Shy.
Some people say they were shy. So, with that said, if you relate to any of these questions, you may have been diagnosed or know about Asperger Syndrome. Now let me tell you a little bit about it. It is a social disability. It's actually a PDD, or as it says, a pervasive developmental disorder. Now basically what it is, it's you have basic skill issues, apparently. Like sometimes you can't socialize very well, or you just don't really fit into the social world by any chance. Now, unbelievably, Asperger's actually can affect between 200,000 and 3 million people a year, mainly children. And in some cases, it actually is treated with medication. Not all cases, but some. I just want to relay that so that way nobody comes after me. But some people actually prefer to call it high-functioning autism. Now, even though I can understand how some people actually go that direction, the problem is, as with me, I actually see that there is still a difference between Asperger's and autism, even though Asperger's is part of the autism spectrum. Now, let me say this. This is actually where it came from. His name is Hans Asperger. He was born in 1906 and died in 1980. He was actually an Austrian pediatrician from whom the syndrome was actually named. Now, I'll tell you this. He was the elder of 2 sons, but he had a hard time making friends, and he also was considered a remote, lonely child. But here's the huge thing. He was so talented in language. The problem there is he would often make quotes, but his classmates were very uninterested, which says a lot about the syndrome that he probably had. Another thing, he actually studied medicine at the University of Vienna, and eventually he became the director of the special education department there at the university's children's clinic. Now, some could actually call it maybe a section, but I prefer to call it department. That's just my research. Now, even though he passed away in 1980, the syndrome actually wasn't given a proposed name until 1981, when an English researcher proposed it in a 1981 paper probably titled Asperger Syndrome, a Clinical Account. Now, it wasn't until 10 years later, apparently, that in 1991, an authoritative, if that's how you pronounce it, the translation was actually made that way, since it was still considered as, quotes, I'm losing it a little bit, since it was still, quote, virtually unknown, unquote. I'm okay. Now, how does Asperger's actually affect everyone? Thanks for that smile, Sydney. So how does Asperger's syndrome affect everybody who is diagnosed with it? I'll tell you. Now, I can simply tell you that it can vary from person to person. No 2 Aussies are alike, but they share the same traits. Specifically, according to AutismSociety.org, people diagnosed with Asperger's, they tend to be shy. They just want to be isolated. They don't want to socialize all too much or anything like that. And to an untrained observer, a child with Asperger's can. They may seem like a, quote, neurotypical child behaving differently, unquote. But many Aussies, that's short for Asperger's, of course, but many Aussies have above average intelligence. So they're smart, as it should be. Now, although those with autism, they can be viewed as shy and they don't want to communicate all too well. But those with Asperger's, they want to socialize. They want to be a part of the conversation. They want to get in there. The problem is they just don't know how. And the end result is that they can actually, that even when they try, they can be socially awkward because they don't know what to do or anything like that. They can also have limited eye-to-eye contact, and they may not understand sarcasm and body language. Now, let me tell you a little bit about people who actually are diagnosed with Asperger's. This is Anne Haggerty, who was born in 1958. She is an English freelance editor, former journalist, and current chaser on the UK game show called The Chase, and she has the nickname The Governess. That's how the host puts it. Now, she was diagnosed with Asperger Syndrome in 2005. Basically, her condition is that when she gets fascinated by something, whenever she wants to learn about something, she takes at least a month just to learn about it. She gets so fascinated, she just reads and reads and reads about it, and that's how she knows so many random facts and everything. And it just grips her, so that says a lot right there. This next person you may as well recognize, because I believe that Professor Raptis spoke about her before, Susan Boyle.
Oh.
Britain's Got Talent. You didn't know she had Asperger's?
I had no idea.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Boyle grew up told that she had an oxygen issue or brain damage, but it was discovered in 2013. This is unbelievable, that she truly has Asperger's. Now, it's been reported that she has erratic behavior, and when she gets on stage, her condition is eased. So you don't know she has Asperger's until she actually spoke about it. And one way that she actually copes with it, she walks away. Just walks away. Here's another person, Dan Aykroyd, who was born in 1852. You may recognize him from...
I didn't know that one.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, thank you so much. He's a popular actor not only from Ghostbusters, but Saturday Night Live, The Coneheads, and of course he's a married father of 3. But he didn't talk about his Asperger syndrome until at least 2004, so it's unknown when he was apparently diagnosed. But some actually feel that he was joking. Now, his obsession is ghosts, which may have led to Ghostbusters, and of course law enforcement. What really is intriguing about this is he actually carries a police badge with him, even though he's an actor. So that's a lot right there. Now, another person who has Asperger's, you're looking at him right now. That's me. I was born in 1987, so technically I'm 27 years old. But let me talk a little bit about myself here. I'm a college student. I'm a photographer. Anybody here love photography? Sydney and a couple other people too. And I happen to be the current Deal Club marketing and social media director. Basically, my job is to talk about the events that's coming up, and the Deal Club just basically talks about people who have disabilities, whether they're physical or invisible, and we just try and raise awareness around campus so that way people can be aware of everything. But here's actually some intriguing things. I was diagnosed with Asperger's back in the 1st grade, and basically my side effects are set schedules. Whenever something is set in stone, I don't like to change anything, which means, you know, it's either my way or bust. That's how I like to look at it, and as well as my mom who told me all about this. And, you know, sometimes I also misinterpret body language. Like, if someone is uncomfortable, I can't tell a single thing. I know it's hard, but it's true. But my talents and intense interests include art and photography, as I just said before, and also game shows and specific details. And a pure example of game shows, you're not going to believe this. My mom actually reminded me about this. When I was a kid, I loved The Price is Right, with Bob Barker especially. And sometimes I would actually test my family on who the executive producer was and who the announcer was and everybody else if I just watched the credits. I don't remember doing that, but I have to stand by what she said. Now, let's talk a little bit about stimming. Now, sometimes if you observe me here in class, sometimes I could be stimming with my fingers or anything like that, almost as if I was having a sensory overload, as this is put by autismhelp.org. There are some things that make Aspies, they tend to just be overstimulated a little bit. They're just having a sensory overload, as it were. And they get agitated and they react in various different ways, like staring up at the lights or hand flapping, as I was just doing a couple seconds there, and walking in various directions. So that can be a problem for some Aspies. But to help improve that, they can exercise as well as be provided with an alternative, yet socially acceptable, let me lay it out, socially acceptable form of stimulation. Like, for example, a rubber tube than biting one's arm. That, of course, was suggested by autismhelp.org. I don't want to discredit them from anything. Now, in closing, let me just say this. How can you cope with people who are diagnosed with Asperger syndrome? All you have to do is just accept them for who they are. They may be wired differently. They just may be, you know, they may act differently. They may react differently. They just may be different. But that doesn't mean they're not a human being, because they are. We are all human beings. Just do not, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't do anything like that. Just accept them for who they are, and just let them know they're accepted. Just be supportive. And last, but certainly not least, if you sense that they're behaving differently, all you have to do is give them helpful advice on how to fit in. Just let them know that they have a big future. Don't don't say anything that would discourage them. Just be supportive, and just let them know that they can be supportive. And always remember, Asperger's, not weird, just different. Thank you.